Hi, I'm Nick, and I want to talk about a specific promotion that feels like a hidden trap. Imagine landing that big promotion, taking your salary from $38,000 all the way to $50,000. You celebrate the win, thinking your days of checking every single price tag are finally over today. But fast forward 6 months, and you're staring at your bank account at 2 a.m., feeling completely stressed. Welcome to the Paycheck Mirage, where your new income vanishes the moment you try to reach it. Why does more money feel like less security, leaving you wondering where all those extra dollars went? This is the reality of lifestyle inflation anxiety, a silent pressure that drains every extra dollar earned. You have entered financial purgatory, stuck in a cycle where your raises never actually change your life. It is the classic middle-class squeeze, where you earn too much for help but too little. Every small upgrade to your daily routine becomes a death by 1,000 cuts for your savings. Even with a $50,000 salary, you are still stuck in the exhausting loop of poverty management. I have been there myself, wondering why the math of my success felt so much like failure. We are told that earning more is the solution, but the math is often rigged against us. We need to look closer at where that extra $12,000 actually goes every single month. Is it a budgeting problem, or is the entire financial system designed to keep you running in place? But why does the math of success feel so much like failure in our daily bank accounts? Moving from $38,000 to $50,000 sounds like a massive victory on paper for any professional. Yet that 6-month mark is when the honeymoon phase ends and the real financial pressure truly begins. You start asking yourself if you were actually better off back when you were making much less. It starts with a specific number that isn't what it seems on your beautiful new offer letter. On paper, you are making 50 grand. But in reality, you are not even close to that. Let us look at the uncomfortable math of your gross income to see where it all goes. Welcome to the Paycheck Mirage, where your big offer letter starts fading before you even start working. You imagine the lifestyle that $50,000 buys, but the middle-class squeeze is already waiting. Before you see a single dime, the government takes its share through federal and state income taxes. Think of it like ordering a large pizza and receiving only 6 slices because of delivery taxes. Social Security and Medicare also demand their portion, chipping away at your hard-earned earnings every single month. This process is a death by 1,000 cuts that leaves your bank account feeling surprisingly empty. When you finally do the math, that $50,000 salary starts to look very different indeed. After federal and state taxes are subtracted, your actual take-home pay drops down to approximately $38,000. Where did that $12,000 go, and why does your paycheck feel so much smaller now? It feels like you are stuck in financial purgatory, earning enough to survive, but never enough to thrive. Do you even recognize your own paycheck after all those mandatory deductions have been stripped away completely? This transition into poverty management happens the moment you realize your true spending power is quite limited. When you break it down further, $38,000 a year equates to roughly $3,000 monthly. That $3,000 hitting your account must cover rent, food, and every other recurring life expense today. The lifestyle inflation anxiety kicks in when you realize your new raise does not cover rising expectations. You are working a $50,000 job while living on a $38,000 actual budget. It is a sobering reality that many young professionals face as they climb the corporate ladder today. By the time the government is done with you, that $50,000 salary is a ghost. Let us look at why your paycheck mirage vanishes before you even see the numbers hit your screen. That $12,000 gap isn't just a rounding error. It's a systematic extraction of your wealth. This is where the middle-class squeeze begins, starting with the federal government taking their massive cut first. Federal taxes act like a silent partner, siphoning off a significant portion of your $50,000 dream. Next, Social Security steps in to claim its mandatory share, further shrinking what remains of your gross income. Medicare deductions follow closely behind, adding to the death by 1,000 cuts that bleed your salary dry. Then your state government arrives for its slice, leaving you feeling trapped in a cycle of poverty management. Every line item on that pay stub feels like a tiny puncture in your plans for financial freedom. Once the calculations settle, your $50,000 salary has withered down to a mere $38,000. Over $12,000 disappeared into the void before you even had a chance to spend a cent. This sudden drop triggers intense lifestyle inflation anxiety as you realize how little is actually left for you. You've entered a state of financial purgatory where your title says success, but your balance says otherwise. When you break it down, That $38,000 translates to roughly $3,000 hitting your account monthly. $3,000 a month sounds decent until you realize it has to cover every single life expense. The gap between your offer letter and your bank balance is the first stage of the $50,000 trap. Understanding this uncomfortable math is crucial for anyone trying to escape the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. It's not just about what you make, but about navigating the reality of what the government lets you keep. We need to look closer at how this $3,000 monthly budget actually functions in the real world. The Paycheck Mirage is finally clearing, revealing a much tighter financial landscape than you ever expected to navigate. This is the reality of the $50,000 trap, and the math is only getting started. We're told $50,000 is a good starting salary, but let's try to actually live on it. Now that we have our $3,000 Paycheck Mirage, let's watch it vanish in real time. Imagine you have just moved into a modest one-bedroom apartment to begin your professional life. In most cities, that single bedroom will cost you approximately $1,500 every single month. This massive expense is the first hit in the middle-class squeeze, taking half your income immediately. Is $1,500 for rent a luxury, or just the basic cost of keeping a roof overhead? Before you can even unpack your boxes, your remaining balance has already plummeted to $1,500. Next comes the requirement of reliable transportation to ensure you can actually get to your job. A standard monthly car payment for a dependable vehicle is estimated at $400 right now. This essential cost further depletes your resources, leaving you with only $1,100 for the month. Unfortunately, owning that vehicle brings another mandatory expense that you simply cannot avoid paying. A typical car insurance payment is cited at $150 for most young professionals. We are witnessing death by 1,000 cuts as lifestyle inflation anxiety begins to take hold. After paying for your car and insurance, you are left with less than $1,000 remaining. Now we must factor in the inevitable cost of utilities to keep your new apartment functional. Once the lights are on and the heat is running, your monthly balance takes another significant hit. This financial purgatory leaves a $50,000 earner with approximately $800 for everything else. Think about that number carefully, because $800 is all that remains for your entire life. This is the reality of poverty management, where surviving feels like trying to fill a leaking bucket. You have $800 left, and that must cover groceries, phone bills, and every other necessity. And here's where the middle-class squeeze becomes a trap that you never saw coming. The cruelest irony of the $50,000 salary is that you are too rich for help. But while the government thinks you are doing fine, you are still too poor to actually thrive. This is the heart of the Paycheck Mirage, where a higher salary actually narrows your safety net. Why does making more money sometimes feel like you are losing a vital financial safety net? Earning $50,000 a year often disqualifies you from most government assistance programs entirely. Suddenly, the childcare subsidies and housing credits that kept you afloat simply vanish overnight. You are now expected to pay full price for everything while your bank account remains nearly empty. This systemic shift forces you into a brutal cycle that we call poverty management. It is like being stuck on a ladder where the bottom rungs are gone and the top is unreachable. You are earning too much for the social safety net, but not enough to build meaningful wealth. Every minor emergency becomes a crisis because you no longer qualify for the help you once had. This transition creates an intense lifestyle inflation anxiety that keeps you awake at night. You are managing a larger budget, but your actual purchasing power has barely moved an inch. The system is built for the very poor or the very rich, leaving you in the cold. You find yourself navigating a world of death by 1,000 cuts, where every fee hits harder. Without assistance, that $800 remainder we discussed earlier must work twice as hard. Who is this system actually built for if the working professional cannot even afford to save? You are working harder than ever, yet you are effectively locked out of the American dream. You are not moving forward. You are simply treading water in a deep pool of bills. Every dollar of your promotion is swallowed by the rising cost of being ineligible for aid. This is the psychological toll of realizing your hard-earned raise might actually be a net loss. You are trapped in a space where progress feels like a step backward for your family. The ladder has failed you, and the safety net below has been pulled away completely. Welcome to your new permanent home in the quiet, desperate halls of financial purgatory. When the math doesn't add up, most people turn to a temporary fix that becomes a permanent weight. Why would a bank give someone with $800 in disposable income a $15,000 credit limit? They know something you don't, and it's all part of the plan to keep you in financial purgatory. Despite earning only $50,000, credit card companies will happily approve you for a $15,000 limit. Having access to a $10,000 line of credit feels like a safety net for your middle-class squeeze. These credit limits are like a long rope. The banks aren't giving it for climbing, but for tripping. It starts with a small purchase that helps you manage the nagging stress of your lifestyle inflation anxiety. Soon, you find yourself carrying a $2,000 balance that feels perfectly manageable at your current salary. Does a $2,000 balance feel like a lot when your limit is still $15,000? You convince yourself this minor debt is just part of modern life in the quiet halls of financial purgatory. But behind the scenes, that paycheck mirage is fading as the hidden costs begin to pile up quietly. Have you checked your interest rate lately, or are you too afraid to see the numbers? Interest rates for carrying a balance can soar as high as 23%, eating your remaining income. This is the slow bleed of death by 1,000 cuts, where your hard-earned money simply vanishes. What felt like financial freedom is actually just advanced poverty management disguised as a gold-plated plastic card. Remember that $800 left over? Half of it is now feeding the bank's bottom line. Every month, the interest compounds, turning your temporary solution into a permanent weight on your financial future. The manageable balance starts to grow, even when you aren't spending another dime on the card. The banks aren't your friends. They are architects designing a maze you were never meant to escape. They want you to feel rich because comfortable people don't question the high-interest math. Your $15,000 limit isn't a reward for your success. It's bait for your future income. At $50,000 a year, your margin for error is razor-thin, and the banks know it. A single emergency turns that $2,000 balance into a mountain you can no longer climb. Suddenly, the paycheck mirage disappears completely, leaving you stranded in a desert of mounting monthly debt. You start making the minimum payment, thinking you're staying afloat while the current pulls you under. That 23% interest rate ensures your balance barely moves, no matter how hard you work. You're trapped in the middle-class squeeze, paying for a lifestyle you can't actually afford with real money. Poverty management becomes your new full-time job as you juggle balances and due dates every single month. It's a cycle designed to keep you productive enough to pay interest, but too broke to ever leave. Watch out, because that manageable balance you're carrying is actually a ticking time bomb. But credit cards aren't the only mandatory tax draining your hard-earned survival cash every single month. For many professionals, the paycheck mirage disappears quickly under the heavy weight of monthly student loan obligations. You might find yourself sending $300 every single month just to keep those loans at bay. This monthly drainage is a cornerstone of the middle-class squeeze that keeps you stuck in financial purgatory. Even after covering debt, the true cost of staying alive in the system continues to grow daily. Beyond the loans, your employer-provided health insurance carries a heavy price tag you rarely see coming. Many of these plans come with a staggering $3,000 deductible before they pay a single cent. That deductible acts like a get-out-of-jail card that costs $3,000 just for the right to use. One bad flu is all it takes to wipe out your entire month of hard-fought financial progress. Even a quick trip to urgent care can instantly drain $200 from your dwindling bank account. This constant cycle of unexpected costs turns your life into an exhausting exercise in ongoing poverty management. The constant fear of these hidden costs fuels a deep sense of lifestyle inflation anxiety within you. It truly feels like death by 1,000 cuts as every small expense bleeds your monthly budget dry. Ask yourself honestly, can you actually afford to get sick while living on the edge like this? Remember that $800 remainder we calculated for your actual survival after all the basic bills? Subtracting these medical and loan costs from that small amount leaves you with almost nothing for yourself. This is how the $50,000 trap snaps shut, leaving you working just to stay broke. Every time you think you are getting ahead, another mandatory payment pulls you back into the shadows. In this broken system, being healthy is a luxury and being educated feels like a permanent death sentence. But the hardest part of this trap isn't just the math. It's the psychological toll it takes. Imagine finally feeling stable after months of tight budgeting and careful poverty management. You think you have escaped the paycheck mirage until a sudden sharp pain strikes your side. It is just a minor emergency, the kind that happens to everyone eventually. You head to the nearest clinic, confident that your employer-provided insurance will protect you. The receptionist asks for a simple $200 copay for your urgent care visit. It feels like a small hit, but then you remember your $3,000 deductible. This high deductible stands like a massive wall between you and your actual medical coverage. Even with a full-time job, these out-of-pocket costs become an insurmountable barrier to wellness. You realize that being healthy has become a luxury in this exhausting financial purgatory. To pay the bill, you reach for the plastic, initiating another credit card debt spiral. What started as a good month quickly dissolves into intense lifestyle inflation anxiety. The middle-class squeeze tightens as you trade your future earnings for immediate survival. Each interest charge feels like another tiny incision in a death by 1,000 cuts. You are working harder than ever, yet your bank account remains stuck in a loop. The system ensures that one minor health scare can wipe out a year of savings. This is the reality where insurance exists on paper but rarely in your pocket. You find yourself managing poverty while wearing the uniform of a successful professional. The stress of the debt becomes heavier than the physical pain that started it all. Every payment you make barely scratches the surface of the growing interest balance. Your once clear path to financial freedom is now obscured by a fog of medical bills. This cycle proves that the $50,000 salary is often just a statistical illusion. You are trapped in a machine designed to harvest your productivity for minimal return. After surviving the medical debt spiral, you find yourself staring at another impossible financial hurdle. Your financial advisor says you need to save 15% for retirement, but do they know your reality? Standard expert advice dictates that everyone should tuck away 15% of their gross income for the future. Financial advisors insist this 15% threshold is the golden rule for escaping a lifetime of laboring. On your $50,000 salary, that 15% target translates to exactly $7,500. Imagine seeing $7,500 vanishing from a budget that is already bleeding out from daily survival. This is where the middle-class squeeze tightens, forcing you to choose between today's food and tomorrow's safety. The Paycheck Mirage makes you feel wealthy until you realize how much future you actually costs to maintain. Where are you supposed to find $7,500 in a budget trapped in constant financial purgatory? The retirement race feels like being asked to run a marathon while you are nursing a broken leg. You are limping through your 30s, told to sprint toward a finish line you can barely even see. Instead of building wealth, you are stuck in a cycle of poverty management, just trying to stay afloat. The experts talk about compound interest while you are worrying about the interest on your maxed out credit cards. Every bill is a death by 1,000 cuts, leaving nothing left for the retirement dream they promised. Even without lifestyle inflation anxiety, the basic cost of living consumes every dollar your paycheck once promised. That $7,500 figure represents the steep price of your future financial freedom. But when your current self is struggling, the future becomes a luxury you simply cannot afford to buy. It is easy for advisors to preach when they aren't the ones choosing between rent and retirement funds. Saving 15% on $50,000 is a mathematical impossibility for anyone living in the real world. Are you really saving for a future you might not even be able to afford to reach? The weight of these expectations creates a psychological prison where every purchase feels like a betrayal of tomorrow. The math doesn't lie, even if the experts do, about how impossible it is to save today. You are stuck in a cycle where the numbers never add up, no matter how hard you work. We have explored the math, but now we must confront the psychology behind why we spend anyway. It is not just about the big bills, but the small moments that make you feel human. This is where the Paycheck Mirage tricks you into thinking your lifestyle matches your hard-earned professional title. You are constantly battling lifestyle inflation anxiety while trying to maintain a shred of your social dignity. Every small purchase feels like a necessity, yet it contributes to a slow death by 1,000 cuts. Consider that daily $5 coffee, which critics claim is the primary reason you cannot afford a home. In reality, that caffeine ritual is a small price for sanity in a world of constant poverty management. We call this financial purgatory, where you earn enough to survive, but not enough to actually live. Then comes the invitation to dinner, where a $30 entree feels like a mandatory barrier to entry. Paying $30 for a single meal is often the steep price for feeling like a normal adult. You are caught in the middle-class squeeze, trying to belong in a world you cannot quite afford. Social life often feels like a series of expensive cover charges just to stay in the loop socially. Even a simple happy hour offers a temporary escape from the crushing weight of your monthly budget. You hunt for that $3 taco, hoping it satisfies your hunger and your need for connection. Lifestyle expectations act like a treadmill that speeds up every time you finally manage a small raise. This is not about being irresponsible. It is about the deep-seated human desire for true social belonging. We validate these costs because they provide a momentary reprieve from the stresses of financial purgatory. Yet these small indulgences slowly erode the very stability you are working so hard to build daily. You are trapped between the person you are and the successful professional you are expected to be. Every dollar spent on comfort is a dollar pulled away from escaping the middle-class squeeze forever. It becomes a cycle of spending just to prove to yourself that you are actually making real progress. Because at $50,000, you feel like you should at least be able to afford a taco. We've all heard the advice that skipping your morning coffee will somehow make you a millionaire. Financial gurus claim that a simple $5 latte is the only thing standing between you and wealth. They tell you that your $3 happy hour taco is a reckless indulgence you simply can't afford. But this narrative is a paycheck mirage designed to make you feel guilty for existing in this economy. Let us stop focusing on the crumbs and look at the massive boulders crushing your monthly budget instead. The average rent for a one-bedroom apartment has soared to approximately $1,500 every single month. That $1,500 payment is a non-negotiable weight that caffeine cutting simply cannot lift from your shoulders. On top of that, you are likely carrying a $300 student loan payment that never goes away. When $1,800 vanishes instantly, that $5 coffee is hardly the reason you are struggling today. This is the heart of the middle-class squeeze, where small savings are dwarfed by massive obligations. Shaming people for a $3 taco is a distraction from the reality of our current financial purgatory. You are stuck in a cycle of poverty management where every small joy feels like a personal failure. This constant scrutiny over small purchases only serves to increase your growing lifestyle inflation, anxiety, and stress. We are told to fear the death by 1,000 cuts from tiny daily treats we enjoy. In reality, it's the massive immovable costs like rent and education that are actually bleeding us dry. The math simply doesn't support the idea that skipping a taco will solve an $1,800 deficit. This common financial advice ignores the structural trap that keeps young professionals from ever getting truly ahead. You can skip every coffee for a year and still be nowhere near a down payment on a home. It is time to stop apologizing for the small comforts that make this financial squeeze somewhat bearable. Focusing on $3 tacos allows us to ignore the systemic issues that keep our bank accounts empty. It is much easier to blame a snack than to admit our housing costs are fundamentally broken today. This distraction keeps us trapped in a cycle of shame while we navigate an impossible financial landscape. True wealth isn't built by sacrificing your sanity for the sake of a few loose dollars. We need to look at the big numbers if we ever hope to escape this modern financial trap. Because the real paycheck mirage isn't the coffee you drink, but the stability you were actually promised. The biggest threat to your wealth isn't one big purchase, but 12 things costing $10 a month. Think of these small costs as financial termites eating your foundation while you sleep at night. This is the paycheck mirage in action, where small leaks drain your stability without you even noticing. We call it death by 1,000 cuts. A slow bleed of your hard-earned survival cash every month. It starts with that monthly phone upgrade payment, silently taking $30 from your checking account. You tell yourself it is just $30, a tiny price for staying connected and modern today. Then comes the streaming service subscription, another $10 disappearing into the digital void every month. Most common services like Netflix and Spotify are priced at exactly $9.99. These figures seem insignificant alone, but they represent a calculated form of modern poverty management. Next, that gym membership adds $25 to the pile, whether you actually go or not. Individually, these charges are small, but collectively they tighten the grip of the middle-class squeeze. Every subscription pushes you deeper into financial purgatory, making your available income feel much smaller. Remember that $800 remainder we calculated earlier? It is being devoured by these termites. Lifestyle inflation anxiety kicks in as you wonder where all your leftover money actually went. You aren't buying Ferraris, you are just paying for convenience and entertainment in $10 increments. This cumulative drain turns your dream of financial freedom into a cycle of constant survival. When did everything become a subscription, locking you into a permanent monthly tax on your life? By the time you finish your workout and watch a movie, your savings have already evaporated. These financial termites are the hidden reason why your paycheck vanishes before the month even ends. Understanding these small leaks is the only way to escape the trap of the paycheck mirage. We always think the next promotion is the one that finally sets our finances free. If you think $75,000 is the magic number, I have some bad news. Even with a jump to $75,000, your daily life will likely feel the same. It is like moving into a bigger house only to find you have more empty rooms. Naturally, you feel compelled to fill those new rooms with even more expensive furniture. This is where lifestyle inflation anxiety begins to grip your bank account tighter than before. As your income grows, your expenses expand to fill every single new dollar you earn. You are simply running faster on the same treadmill while the finish line stays distant. You have escaped one trap only to land in a much more expensive version of Purgatory. Even with extreme expense cutting, you might only see an extra $100 in monthly savings. Why does a $25,000 raise result in such a tiny increase in real wealth? The middle-class squeeze is a predator that adapts to your higher salary almost instantly. This jump from $50,000 to $75,000 often feels like a cruel, recurring dream. The paycheck mirage shifts its shape, but the underlying lack of true freedom remains constant. You are still just practicing advanced poverty management at a slightly higher, more complex level. The death by 1,000 cuts continues, just with more expensive knives at your throat. This revelation recontextualizes your struggle as the treadmill speeds up to match your new pace. Your hard-earned survival cash is swallowed by new obligations you never previously considered. The system ensures that your growth is met with an equal increase in mandatory living costs. Because more money does not fix a system that is fundamentally broken from the start. Let us bring this all together and face the actual reality of the $50,000 trap once and for all. Stop blaming yourself for not being able to budget your way out of a system that is fundamentally broken. What we once called a comfortable salary has shifted into a paycheck mirage that disappears before hitting your account. The math reveals a harsh truth. Earning $50,000 no longer buys a middle-class life in 2024. After paying for rent, your car, insurance, and utilities, you are often left with only $800 monthly. This narrow margin is the heart of the middle-class squeeze, leaving no room for the unexpected costs of life. Even extreme expense cutting usually only results in an extra $100 in monthly savings for most earners. We are told that skipping coffee will save us, but that is just another distraction from the larger problem. Living in this financial purgatory means you're working harder than ever just to stay exactly where you are. Saving 15% for retirement on $50,000 requires finding $7,500 every single year. When your total remaining cash is so low, choosing between retirement and daily survival becomes a cruel, impossible gamble. This constant pressure creates lifestyle inflation anxiety, where every small purchase feels like a major risk to your stability. It is not one big mistake, but a death by 1,000 cuts from subscriptions, fees, and rising costs. You are not actually building wealth. You are simply excelling at the exhausting art of modern poverty management. If the math says it is impossible, we must stop pretending that our personal habits are the primary failure. Trying to budget this salary is like playing poker when the house takes half your chips before the deal. The reality is that the $50,000 trap is a mathematical certainty built into our current economic structure. It is time to stop apologizing for struggling to survive within a system designed to keep you financially stagnant. You have been taught to feel guilty for every dollar spent, yet the math proves the game is rigged. This is not just a tough year. It is the structural reality of trying to thrive on an outdated income. We have explored the traps, the debts, and the illusions that keep you running on this endless financial treadmill. The weight you feel is not personal failure, but the crushing gravity of the modern cost of basic living. Looking at these numbers clearly is the first step toward understanding why the old rules no longer apply today. What happens when we finally stop pretending this mirage is a real path toward long-term financial freedom? Remember, when the numbers refuse to add up, it is not your fault. It is just the math. The first step to escaping the trap is admitting it actually exists in your daily life. If you have felt this paycheck mirage in your own life, you are certainly not alone. This financial purgatory can feel isolating, but recognizing the math is the only way out. Does your paycheck feel like a mirage that disappears before you can even enjoy it? We are building a community of people who refuse to be trapped by these invisible numbers. Join us by hitting that subscribe button to navigate this middle-class squeeze together today. Share your story in the comments if you have experienced lifestyle inflation anxiety recently. Identifying your personal financial termites is the first move toward regaining your financial freedom. What is one small expense you are cutting this week to stop the bleeding? We need to stop the death by 1,000 cuts before our savings vanish entirely. Many people are stuck in poverty management without even realizing they have lost control. Together, we can break down the math and find a real path toward true wealth. If this breakdown resonated with you, please like the video to help others find it. Your engagement helps us reach more people who are currently struggling in this same trap. We are exposing the truth about the $50,000 salary and how it functions. Don't let the mirage fool you into thinking you are the problem in this equation. Stay tuned as we dive deeper into the strategies for reclaiming your hard-earned income. Subscribing ensures you never miss a deep dive into the reality of modern finance. Let's continue this conversation in the comments and support each other through the struggle. I'm Nick, and I will see you in the next one for more financial truth.